The cafeteria on Station Helix 7 was always loud during lunch. Students from dozens of different planets sat together at long metal tables, eating strange foods and talking in languages that sometimes sounded like music and sometimes sounded like rocks grinding together. The walls were made of glass, and through them you could see the stars spinning slowly as the station rotated through space. Hana Kim sat alone at a small table in the corner. She was 17 years old, with black hair that fell past her shoulders and dark eyes that watched everything but said nothing. Her tray had food on it, but she wasn't eating. She was just waiting for lunch to end so she could go back to class and be invisible again. She was the only human at the Galactic Academy, the only one from Earth. At the big table in the center of the room, a group of popular students were laughing about something. Hannah knew them all by name, even though they had never spoken to her nicely. There was Lissa, a Valorian girl with silver skin that sparkled under the lights. Her family was rich and powerful, and she made sure everyone knew it. Next to her sat Bella, another Valorian who copied everything Lissa did. And across from them was Phoenix, a Torvik boy whose blue scales glowed different colors depending on his mood. Right now they were glowing a soft pink, which meant he was happy. Hannah knew they were talking about her. She could hear them even from across the room. Most aliens didn't know that humans had good hearing. They assumed humans were weak in every way. Look at her sitting alone again, Lissa said, not even trying to be quiet. It's so sad. Her species doesn't even have natural weapons. No claws, no fangs, no venom. How did they even survive on their planet? Maybe that's why there's only one of them here, Bella giggled. They're probably almost extinct. Phoenix's scales flickered orange for a moment. That meant he thought something was funny. I heard humans can't even see in the dark. They're basically blind. And slow, Lissa added. I read that they can only run for a few minutes before they get tired and have to stop. This was wrong. Hannah knew it was wrong, but she didn't say anything. She had learned a long time ago that correcting people only made them angry. It was better to stay quiet and let them think whatever they wanted. The bell rang, and students started getting up from their tables. Hannah grabbed her tray and walked toward the recycling station. She kept her eyes down, hoping to slip past the popular table without being noticed. She almost made it. "Hey, Earthling," Lissa called out. Her voice was sweet like honey, but Hannah knew there was poison underneath. "Nice shoes. Did your species invent those, or did you copy them from a smarter race?" Some students nearby laughed. Hannah's face felt hot, but she didn't respond. She just kept walking. The Phoenix stood up and stepped into her path. He was tall, almost 2 meters, and his scales were now glowing a dark red. That meant he wanted to cause trouble. "Lissa asked you a question," he said. "It's rude not to answer." Hannah looked up at him. She could feel her heart beating faster, but she kept her voice calm. "Excuse me. I need to get to class. Class can wait." Phoenix crossed his arms. "I want to know something. Is it true that humans cry water from their eyes when they're sad? That's so weird. What's the point of leaking water from your face?" More laughter from the crowd that was gathering. Hannah felt something twist in her chest. It wasn't sadness. It was something else. Something that felt like fire trying to escape from a locked box. "Yes," she said quietly. "We cry. Can I go now?" Phoenix leaned closer. "Make me move." For one heartbeat, Hannah thought about it. She thought about what would happen if she actually tried. She thought about the strength hiding in her small body, the strength she had spent her whole life learning to control. She thought about what Phoenix would look like flying across the cafeteria after she pushed him. But then she thought about what would happen after. The questions, the fear, the test they would want to run on her. So instead, she stepped around him. She walked away while everyone laughed. She made it to the hallway before the tears came. She wiped them away quickly, angry at herself for being so weak. Angry at them for being so cruel. Angry at the whole galaxy for making her feel like she didn't belong anywhere. Her next class was xenobiology, which meant learning about different alien species. Today's lesson was about something called evolutionary adaptation, which meant how different species changed over time to survive on their planets. Professor Vex was a Mithrani, which meant he had 4 arms and big compound eyes like an insect. He was one of the nicer teachers at the academy, and he never made Hana feel bad for being human. Today we will discuss how environment shapes biology, Professor Vex said, his 4 hands moving as he talked. Every species in this room evolved to survive on their homeworld. The Valorians developed reflective skin to survive the intense radiation of their twin suns. The Torvik developed bioluminescent scales to communicate in the dark caves where they originated. And humans. He paused and looked at Hana. The whole class turned to stare at her. Humans are an interesting case, Professor Vex continued. They come from a planet that the Galactic Union has classified as a Category 7 death world. Someone in the back of the room gasped. Hana sank lower in her seat. What's a death world? Asked a young Valorian boy named Max. An excellent question. Professor Vex pulled up a holographic image of a blue and green planet. Earth, Hana's home. A death world is a planet with conditions so extreme that most species could not survive there. Earth is crushing gravity, a toxic atmosphere, extreme weather, and millions of predator species. By all logical measures, nothing should be able to live there. And yet, he gestured at Hana, humans not only survived, they became the dominant species. The class was silent. Everyone was looking at Hana differently now. Not with respect, but with something else. Confusion, maybe. Or disbelief. Lissa raised her hand. But Professor, if Earth is so dangerous, why are humans so small and weak? Professor Vex made a sound that might have been a laugh. An excellent question, Lissa. One that many xenobiologists have struggled to answer. The truth is, we don't fully understand humans yet. They are relatively new to the galactic community, and much about their biology remains mysterious. Hana stared at her desk, wishing she could disappear. She knew things about humans that Professor Vex didn't. Things that nobody at this school knew. Things she had promised her parents she would never reveal. Because the truth was, humans weren't weak at all. They were something else entirely. And if anyone ever found out what Hana was really capable of, everything would change. That night, Hana sat alone in her small room on the station. The room was simple. A bed, a desk, a window that looked out at the stars. On the wall hung a picture of her family back on Mars Colony, where humans had built a new home after leaving Earth. She opened her computer and pulled up the files she always looked at when she felt alone. Files about Earth. Files about what humans really were. The Galactic Union had created these files after first contact, when alien scientists came to study humanity. Hana had found them hidden in the Academy's database 2 years ago. She had read them so many times that she knew them by heart. The first file was about Earth's gravity. Earth's gravitational pull is 1.0 standard units, the file said. This is considered extremely high by galactic standards. Most sapient species evolved on planets with gravity between 0.3 and 0.6 standard units. Humans have developed dense bones and powerful muscles to survive in these crushing conditions. A human child can lift weights that would injure an adult Valorian. Hana thought about Lissa calling her weak. She thought about how she had to be so careful every day. How she had to move slowly and gently so she didn't accidentally break things. Or people. When she was 6 years old, she had shaken hands with a Mithrani girl at a cultural exchange event. She had squeezed just a little too hard, the way humans normally shake hands. The girl's hand had cracked like dry wood. The screaming had lasted for hours. After that, Hannah learned to be gentle. Always gentle. The second file was about Earth's atmosphere. Earth's atmosphere contains high levels of oxygen, a gas that is corrosive and toxic to most galactic species. Humans breathe this gas constantly and suffer no ill effects. They also consume ethanol, capsaicin, and caffeine, substances that are classified as dangerous toxins by the Galactic Health Organization. Humans call these alcohol, spicy food, and coffee. They consume them for pleasure. Hannah smiled a little at this part. She remembered how shocked her alien classmates had been when they learned that humans drank coffee every morning. One Torvik student had called it liquid poison and asked if humans were trying to kill themselves. Slowly, the third file was about Earth's predators. Earth contains over 8 million species capable of killing sapient life. These include large mammals with fangs and claws, reptiles with venomous bites, insects that carry deadly diseases, and microscopic organisms that can destroy a body from the inside. Despite living among these dangers, humans became the dominant predators on their planet. They hunted creatures much larger and stronger than themselves using tools, teamwork, and a hunting technique called persistence hunting. This was the part that scared aliens the most. Persistence hunting. The idea that humans would chase an animal for hours, sometimes days, never stopping, never resting, until the animal collapsed from exhaustion. Humans didn't need to be faster than their prey. They just needed to never give up. The fourth file was about human healing. Humans possess remarkable regenerative abilities. They can recover from wounds that would be fatal to most species. Broken bones will repair themselves within weeks. Damaged skin will regrow. Even some internal organs can heal without medical intervention. Additionally, humans have an immune system that can adapt to fight new diseases. A sickness that kills 90% of Valorians might only make a human feel tired for a few days. Hannah touched her arm, remembering the time she had fallen off her bicycle as a child and scraped all the skin off her elbow. It had hurt, but within a month there was barely even a scar. Her Mithrani neighbor had been horrified, saying that such a wound would have taken him 2 years to heal fully. The fifth file was the one that always made Hannah's chest feel tight. Summary: humans are classified as a Class 4 apex predator species. They evolved on a hostile world that constantly tried to kill them, and they not only survived, but thrived. They are stronger than they appear, more durable than they appear, and more dangerous than they appear. Despite their friendly and social nature, humans should be approached with the same caution one would use with any apex predator. Never threaten a human's family or loved ones. Never corner a human. Never assume a human is helpless. And at the very bottom of the file, in red letters that blinked as a warning, remember, humans are persistence predators. If a human decides to hunt you, it will not stop. It will follow you across mountains, through deserts, over oceans. It will track you for days without sleep. It will chase you until you cannot run anymore. And then it will kill you. This is not cruelty. This is simply what humans are. Hannah closed the file and stared at the ceiling. This was what she was. This was what she came from. A species of tireless hunters. A species that drank poison for fun and healed from wounds that would kill others. A species that had looked at a world full of monsters and said, "No, we are the monsters here." But nobody at the academy saw her that way. They saw a small, quiet girl who sat alone and never fought back. They saw weakness. Sometimes Hannah wondered what they would think if they knew the truth. If they knew that every day she held back strength that could break walls. If they knew that her body could survive things that would turn their bodies to dust. But then she thought, about what would happen if they found out. The fear in their eyes. The way they would look at her like she was a monster. The way she would never be able to have normal friends or a normal life. So she stayed quiet. She stayed gentle. She let them call her weak. It was easier that way. Her computer made a soft sound. A message from her mother on Mars colony. "Hi, sweetie. Just wanted to check in. Your father and I miss you so much. We know the academy is hard, but we're so proud of you. Remember what we always told you. Being strong doesn't mean hurting others. True strength is having power and choosing not to use it. We love you. Stay safe." Hannah read the message 3 times. Then she typed a reply. "Hi, Mom. I'm okay. School is fine. I miss you too. I'm being careful, I promise. Love you." She didn't mention the bullying. She didn't mention Lissa or Phoenix or the way everyone laughed at her. Her parents would only worry, and there was nothing they could do for Mars. Hannah turned off her computer and lay down on her bed. Through her window, she could see a distant nebula glowing purple and blue. Against the darkness of space. Tomorrow was the field trip to the Outer Ring mining colony. The whole class was going. Hannah was not looking forward to spending a whole day with Lissa and her friends in a place where there would be nowhere to hide. But she would survive. She always did. That was what humans were good at. Surviving. She closed her eyes and fell asleep, dreaming of a blue and green planet she barely remembered. A planet covered in oceans and forests and mountains. A planet full of danger and beauty. A planet called Earth. Her home. The transport ship landed at the Outer Ring mining colony just after breakfast. Hannah stepped off with the other students, looking around at the massive industrial complex built into the side of an asteroid. Huge machines drilled into the rock, pulling out valuable metals that would be shipped across the galaxy. The air smelled like metal and smoke. Miss Tara, their teacher for the trip, was a tall Valorian woman with kind eyes. She gathered the students together and began explaining the safety rules. "Stay with the group at all times," she said. "Do not touch any machinery. Do not enter any restricted areas. The mining colony has some dangerous sections, and we don't want anyone getting hurt." Hannah listened carefully. She always followed rules. It was safer that way. The tour began in the processing center, where raw asteroid rock was crushed and sorted. The machines were loud, and Hannah could feel the floor shaking beneath her feet. The Valorian and Mithrani students looked uncomfortable. They weren't used to such strong vibrations. But Hannah barely noticed. Earth had earthquakes that were much stronger than this. "Pretty impressive, isn't it?" said a voice beside her. Hannah turned to see Tessa, a young Mithrani girl with soft blue skin and 4 arms that she always kept folded nervously against her body. Tessa was one of the few students who had never been mean to Hannah. She had also never been friendly. She just watched from a distance, curious but too shy to talk. "Yes," Hannah said carefully. "It's very big. I've always wondered what it's like," Tessa said quietly. "Being human, I mean. You're so different from everyone else. But not in a bad way. Just different." Before Hannah could respond, Lissa appeared between them. Her silver face wore a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Oh, how sweet," Lissa said. "Tessa is making friends with the Earthling. Careful, Tessa. I heard humans carry diseases that can kill other species. You don't want to catch anything." Tessa's blue skin turned pale. She stepped away from Hannah without saying anything else. Hannah felt her heart sink, but she didn't show it. She just kept walking with the group. The tour continued for another hour. They saw the drilling machines, the sorting conveyors, the transport tubes that shot processed materials out to waiting cargo ships. It was interesting, but Hannah found it hard to pay attention. She kept thinking about what Tessa had said. Different, but not in a bad way. Maybe there were aliens who didn't hate her. Maybe she just hadn't found them yet. Then the alarm started. The sound was so loud that several students screamed. Red lights began flashing on the walls. Miss Tara's face went white as she looked at her communication device. "Emergency," she said, her voice shaking. "There's been a hull breach in Sector 4. We need to get to the evacuation pods now." Everyone started running. The students pushed and shoved, trying to get through the narrow hallways. Hannah was smaller than most of them, and she got knocked around like a leaf in a storm. Someone's elbow hit her in the face. Someone else stepped on her foot. She fell dead by the time she got back up. The group was gone. The hallway was empty. And then she heard the worst sound imaginable. The emergency bulkhead doors were closing. Hannah ran toward them, but she wasn't fast enough. The heavy metal doors slammed shut just before she reached them. She pounded on them with her fists, but they didn't move. She was trapped, alone, on the wrong side of the breach. For a moment, Hannah felt panic rising in her chest. She was going to die here, alone on an asteroid, millions of kilometers from anyone who loved her. But then something else took over. Something deep inside her that had been sleeping her whole life. Something that came from a long line of ancestors who had survived ice ages and predators and diseases and wars. The survival instinct of a death world species. Hannah's breathing slowed. Her mind became clear and sharp. She looked around, taking in every detail of her situation. The temperature was already dropping. She could see her breath forming clouds in the air. Through a cracked window, she could see stars. That meant the whole breach was close. Atmosphere was leaking out. Soon this whole section would be as cold and empty as space itself. Any other species would die within minutes. The cold would freeze their blood. The lack of air would suffocate them. Their bodies would shut down. But Hannah was human. She started moving. Not running, because running would waste energy. Walking with purpose. Her body was already adapting to the cold, pulling blood away from her skin and toward her vital organs. Her metabolism was increasing, burning calories to generate heat. She had maybe 30 minutes before the cold became dangerous. Maybe less. She needed to find a manual override for the atmospheric seals. If she could close the breach, emergency systems would restore air and heat to this section. The hallways were dark now. Emergency power had failed. But Hannah's eyes adjusted quickly. Human eyes weren't great in the dark, but they were better than nothing. She moved forward, one hand on the wall for guidance. The cold was getting worse. Frost was forming on the metal walls. When Hannah touched them, the cold bit into her fingers like tiny teeth. She ignored it. Pain was just information. It told her she was still alive. She found the breach after 10 minutes of walking. A section of the outer wall had cracked, probably from a micrometeorite impact. Air was rushing out through the gap, creating a whistling sound that hurt her ears. Beyond the crack was nothing but the black emptiness of space. Near the breach was an emergency control panel. Hannah wiped frost off the screen and read the instructions. Manual override. Pull lever to activate. She looked at the lever. It was big, designed to be operated by maintenance robots, not living beings. Next to it was a warning sign. Caution. Lever requires 800 kilograms of force to operate. 800 kilograms. Most Valorians could lift maybe 50 kilograms at most. Mithrani could manage about 30. Even strong Torviks topped out at around 200. But Hannah was human. Born on a world with crushing gravity. Built from generations of hunters who had chased down animals 10 times their size. She grabbed the lever with both hands. The metal was so cold it burned her palms. She could feel the skin of her hands sticking to it, freezing in place. She pulled out at first. Nothing happened. Her muscles screamed in protest. Her lungs burned from breathing the thin, freezing air. Her vision started to blur at the edges. but she didn't stop. She couldn't stop. Stopping meant dying. And humans didn't die easily. She pulled harder. She thought about her mother and father on Mars. She thought about the blue oceans of Earth that she had seen in pictures. She thought about all the humans who had come before her, surviving impossible things so that she could exist. The lever moved. It moved slowly at first, then faster. With a final grunt of effort, Hannah pulled it all the way down. Alarms beeped. Lights flickered. And then she heard the most beautiful sound in the galaxy. Emergency seals activating. Atmosphere restoration in progress. Warm air began flooding into the section. The whistling from the breach stopped as emergency foam sealed the crack. The lights came back on, flickering but steady. Hannah let go of the lever and fell to her knees. Her hands were bleeding where the frozen metal had torn the skin. Her whole body was shaking from cold and exhaustion. But she was alive. She was alive. 20 minutes later, the rescue team cut through the bulkhead doors. They found her sitting against the wall, frost still melting in her hair, her breath making small clouds in the warming air. The lead rescuer, a big Torvik man whose scales were flashing with confusion, stared at her like she was a ghost. "How are you still alive?" he asked. This section was at -40 degrees. There was almost no oxygen. "You should be dead." Hannah looked up at him with tired eyes. Everything hurt. She wanted to sleep for a year. But despite everything, she smiled. "I'm from Earth," she said. "We don't die easily." The Torvik had no idea what to say to that. The video spread across the station like fire. Someone in the mining colony's security department had leaked the footage to the Galactic network. Within hours, everyone had seen it. The small human girl walking through frozen corridors that should have killed her. The moment she grabbed the emergency lever. The impossible strength as she pulled it down. The way she sat calmly waiting for rescue, frost in her hair and blood on her hands. Like surviving the unsurvivable was just another Tuesday. When Hannah returned to the academy 3 days later, everything had changed. She walked through the main entrance, still wearing bandages on her healing hands. The hallway was crowded with students heading to their first classes. But as soon as people noticed her, something strange happened. They moved out of her way, not rudely, the way they used to push past her like she didn't exist. They stepped aside respectfully, giving her space. Some of them stared at her with wide eyes. Others looked at the floor, unable to meet her gaze. Hannah didn't understand at first. She was used to being invisible. Being watched felt wrong, like wearing clothes that didn't fit. She made it to her locker without anyone saying a word to her. She was putting away her bag when she heard familiar voices approaching. Lissa, Bella, and Phoenix. Her stomach tightened automatically, preparing for their usual cruelty. But when she turned around, something was different. Lissa's silver face was pale. Her eyes kept darting to Hannah's bandaged hands, then away again. Bella was hiding behind her, trying to make herself small. And Phoenix's scales, which had always glowed red or orange around Hannah, were now a pale yellow color she had never seen before. Fear. His scales were showing fear. "Hi," Lissa said. Her voice cracked slightly. "We just wanted to say. We saw the video, and—" She trailed off, unable to finish. Hannah waited. She didn't know what to say. Phoenix stepped forward. His scales flickered nervously between yellow and something darker. "That lever," he said quietly. "The one you pulled. I looked it up. It's rated for 800 kilograms of force. That's more than 4 times what a Torvik can lift. How did you do that?" Hannah looked at him for a long moment. This was the same boy who had blocked her path in the cafeteria. The same boy who had mocked her for crying. Now he was looking at her like she might bite. "I'm human," she said simply. "We're stronger than we look." Phoenix's scales went almost white. Without another word, he turned and walked away. Bella followed him, practically running. Lissa stayed a moment longer, opening and closing her mouth like she wanted to say something. But nothing came out. Finally, she left too. Hannah stood alone by her locker, trying to process what had just happened. For years, she had wanted them to stop bullying her. She had wanted them to leave her alone. Now they were doing exactly that, and somehow it didn't feel like victory. It felt lonely. Just a different kind of lonely. She went to her first class, Galactic History, with Professor Kim. He was an older Mithrani man who had always been fair to her. Today, though, even he seemed nervous. He kept glancing at her like he expected her to do something strange. The lesson was about the formation of the Galactic Union, but Hannah couldn't focus. She felt eyes on her from every direction. People were whispering, not about her in the mean way they used to, but about her in a scared way. Like she was a dangerous animal that had somehow ended up in their classroom. At lunch, she sat at her usual table in the corner. But for the first time, she wasn't alone. Tessa, the shy Mithrani girl from the field trip, sat down across from her. Her four hands were shaking slightly, but her compound eyes looked determined. "Can I sit here?" she asked, even though she was already sitting. "Yes," Hannah said. Surprised. Tessa put her food tray on the table but didn't start eating. Instead, she leaned forward. "I have so many questions," she said. "I've been reading about Earth ever since the video came out. Is it true your planet has something called hurricanes? Giant spinning storms that can destroy whole cities?" Hannah blinked. She hadn't expected questions about weather. "Yes, we have hurricanes, and tornadoes, and earthquakes, and volcanoes. And you live there anyway?" Tessa's eyes were wide. "You build cities next to volcanoes that could explode at any moment?" "Some of us do. The soil near volcanoes is very good for growing food." Tessa made a sound that might have been amazement or horror or both. "Your species is insane." Hannah almost smiled. "Maybe, but it worked out okay for us." They talked through the entire lunch period. Tessa asked about Earth's predators, which Hannah explained the best she could. Sharks that smell blood from kilometers away. Bears that can outrun horses. Tiny spiders whose venom can stop a heart. And of course, other humans who had spent thousands of years fighting each other with increasingly creative weapons. "And you survived all of that?" Tessa asked. "We didn't just survive," Hannah said. "We won. Every other species on Earth is afraid of us now. We're the apex predators. The top of the food chain." Tessa was quiet for a moment. Then she said something that surprised Hannah. "But you're not scary at all. You're actually really nice." Hannah didn't know how to respond to that. No one had called her nice before. At least, no one at this school. "Thank you," she said finally. From that day on, Tessa sat with Hannah at every meal. They studied together in the library. They walked to class side by side. Tessa asked endless questions about Earth and humanity, and Hannah answered them all honestly. For the first time since coming to the academy, she had something that felt like a real friend. But not everyone reacted to the video the way Tessa did. Some students, especially the older ones, became openly hostile. Not in the mocking way that Lissa and her friends had been, but in a colder, more serious way. They watched Hannah like she was a threat. They whispered about death-world species and predator instincts and evolutionary dangers. One day, Hannah found a note in her locker. "Humans don't belong here. Go back to your death planet before someone gets hurt." She crumpled the note and threw it away. But she thought about it for the rest of the day. That night, she called her parents on Mars Colony. She told them about the incident at the mining station, about the video, about how everyone looked at her differently now. Her mother listened quietly. Then she said, "Are they still bullying you?" "No," Hannah admitted. "They're afraid of me now. "That's not better," her father said. "Fear and respect are not the same thing." "I know," Hannah said, "but I don't know how to make them see me as a person instead of a monster." Her mother's face on the screen was sad but loving. "You can't control how others see you, sweetheart. You can only control who you actually are. Keep being kind. Keep being brave. Eventually, the right people will see the real you." "And the wrong people?" Hannah asked. Her father smiled. "The wrong people don't matter." After the call ended, Hannah lay in bed thinking about what her parents had said. The right people will see the real you. Maybe Tessa was one of those people. Maybe there were others. She looked at her hands, now almost fully healed. The bandages were gone, leaving only faint pink lines where the frozen metal had torn her skin. In another week, even those would disappear. Human healing. Another thing that scared aliens, but she wasn't scary. She was just different. Maybe, eventually, the galaxy would understand that. 3 years passed. Hannah Kim stood backstage at the Academy's grand auditorium, wearing her graduation uniform. The fabric was stiff and formal, decorated with pins and medals she had earned over her years at the school. Highest marks in survival training. Excellence in xenobiology. First place in the tactical adaptation competition. And a special medal, gold with a blue center, for heroism during the Outer Ring mining incident. Through the curtain, she could hear the auditorium filling with people. Students, teachers, parents who had traveled from across the galaxy to watch their children graduate. Somewhere in that crowd were her own parents, who had made the long journey from Mars Colony for this day. "Nervous?" asked a voice beside her. Hannah turned to see Tessa, also in her graduation uniform. Over the past 3 years, the shy Mithrani girl had become Hannah's best friend. They had studied together, eaten together, laughed and cried together. Tessa still asked questions about Earth sometimes, but now it was out of genuine curiosity rather than fear. "A little," Hannah admitted. "I have to give a speech." "You'll be great," Tessa said. "You're always great." Hannah smiled. "Remember when you were too scared to sit next to me in the cafeteria? Remember when everyone thought you were the weak one?" Tessa laughed. "Things change." Yes, Hannah thought. Things change. The Academy was different now. After the video from the mining colony went viral, other humans had started applying to study here. At first, the administration had been nervous. One human was strange enough. What would happen with more of them? But Hannah had fought for their acceptance. She had written letters to the Academy Board. She had given presentations about human biology and culture. She had shown everyone that humans could be trusted, that they could control their strength, that they wanted to learn and grow alongside other species rather than dominate them. Now, there were 12 humans at the Academy. 12 Deathworld children learning alongside the sons and daughters of 100 different planets. It wasn't many, but it was a start. The lights in the auditorium dimmed. Music began to play. It was time. Hannah walked onto the stage with the other graduating students. The crowd applauded as they took their seats. She spotted her parents in the third row. Her mother was already crying. Her father had that proud, serious look he always got when he was trying not to cry too. The headmaster walked to the podium. He was ancient, even for a Torvik, with scales that had long ago stopped glowing. But his voice was still strong. "Welcome," he said, "to the graduation ceremony of Class 2157. Today, we celebrate the achievements of our students, who have worked hard and grown much over their years at this academy." The ceremony proceeded with speeches and awards. Students received their diplomas one by one, walking across the stage while their families cheered. When Hannah's name was called, the applause was louder than she expected. Not just polite clapping, but real enthusiasm. She saw Tessa jumping up and down in the crowd. She saw teachers nodding with approval. She even saw Lissa, sitting near the back, clapping along with everyone else. Things really had changed. After all the diplomas had been given out, the headmaster returned to the podium. "And now," he said, "a special address from our valedictorian, the student with the highest academic achievements in her class. Please welcome Hannah Kim." More applause. Hannah stood up on shaking legs and walked to the podium. The crowd seemed impossibly large from up here. Thousands of faces, all watching her, waiting to hear what she would say. She took a deep breath. Then she began. "When I first came to this academy, I was the only human. I was small and quiet and scared. I didn't know how to talk to people who were so different from me. I didn't know how to make friends with species who had never met a human before. I felt alone." She paused, looking out at the crowd. "Many of you know what happened during my first year. The incident at the mining colony. The video that showed what humans are capable of. After that video spread, everything changed. People stopped seeing me as weak. Instead, they saw me as something else. Something dangerous. Something to be feared." Her eyes found her parents in the crowd. Her mother was still crying. Her father gave her a small nod of encouragement. "But fear is not understanding," Hannah continued. "When you fear something, you don't see it clearly. You see a threat, a monster. You don't see a person who laughs and cries and dreams like everyone else. You don't see a daughter who misses her family. You don't see a student who just wants to learn and make friends and find her place in the galaxy." She took another breath. "I am from Earth. Yes, my planet is dangerous. Yes, my species evolved to survive things that would kill most aliens. We are strong. We are tough. We heal fast and run far and never give up. But that is not what makes us human." The auditorium was completely silent now. Every eye was on her. What makes us human is something else. It's the way we love our families and friends so fiercely that we would die to protect them. It's the way we build communities and help strangers and feel sadness when others suffer. It's the way we look up at the stars and wonder what else is out there, what other kinds of life exist, what we might learn from beings completely different from ourselves. She thought about Tessa, her best friend, about the 12 human students who now walk these halls, about all the bridges that have been built over the past 3 years. When the Galactic Union first classified Earth as a death world, they were looking at the wrong things. They saw our predators and our storms and our diseases. They saw danger everywhere, but they missed what really matters. They missed the fact that despite all those dangers, we built civilizations. We created art and music and literature. We learned to love each other across boundaries of race and religion and culture. We looked at a hostile world and said, "This is our home, and we will make it beautiful." Her voice grew stronger. That is what being human means. Not strength or endurance or survival instincts. Those are just tools. What makes us human is what we do with those tools. We could have become conquerors, taking whatever we wanted by force. Instead, we chose to reach out to the stars with open hands, wanting to learn, wanting to share, wanting to grow together with every species we meet. She looked at the headmaster, who was watching her with an expression she couldn't quite read. "I came to this academy as an outsider. I was mocked, feared, and misunderstood. But I also found something here. I found friends who saw past their fear to the person underneath. I found teachers who believed in me. I found a community that gave me a chance to prove that humans are not monsters." She smiled. "Today, I graduate not just as a student, but as a bridge. A bridge between my species and the rest of the galaxy. And I want to spend my life building more bridges, bringing more humans here, sending more aliens to Earth, showing everyone that different doesn't mean dangerous. That understanding destroys fear. That we are all, in the end, just people trying to find our place in the universe. She stepped back from the podium. "Thank you." For a moment, there was silence. Then the applause started. It built slowly at first, then grew into a roar that shook the auditorium walls. People stood up. They cheered. They stamped their feet and clapped their hands and made sounds of celebration in a dozen different ways. Hannah looked out at the crowd and felt something warm spreading through her chest. Not pride, exactly. Something deeper. Something like belonging. After the ceremony, her parents found her in the crowd. Her mother hugged her so tight that Hannah had to remind her that humans can bruise too. Her father put his hand on her shoulder and said simply, "Well done." Tessa bounced over, her forearms waving excitedly. That was amazing. Everyone was crying. Even the headmaster looked emotional, and he's like 1,000 years old. Later that night, there was a party for the graduates. Hannah stood near the window, looking out at the stars while music played and people danced behind her. She thought about everything that had happened. The bullying, the incident, the fear, the friendships. The growth thought she was no longer the scared little girl who sat alone in the cafeteria. She was Hannah Kim, valedictorian, bridge builder, daughter of a death world. And she was just getting started. Tessa came to stand beside her. "What are you thinking about?" Hannah pointed at a small blue dot in the distance. "That's Earth, my homeworld. I haven't been back since I was 4 years old. Are you going to visit?" "Someday." Hannah smiled. "But first there's a lot of work to do. A lot of bridges to build. A lot of minds to change. Sounds like a big job. It is." Hannah turned to look at her friend. "But humans don't give up. We keep going until the job is done. That's what we do. That's who we are." Tessa laughed and linked one of her arms through Hannah's. "Well then, I guess I better stick with you. Someone needs to make sure you don't work yourself to death. That would be helpful." Together, they walked back into the party. The music was loud and the lights were bright and the future was waiting. Hannah didn't know exactly what would happen next. But she knew one thing for certain: she was ready for whatever came. After all, she was human, and humans could survive anything.